This is Common Sense with Adil from Washington, D.C. I hope you enjoy it. Today you can visit Saudi Arabia and enjoy any activity, from attending a concert for a popular singer to staying in a 5-star resort by one of the most beautiful Red Sea beaches. But the one authentic activity that's encouraging many to visit Saudi Arabia as tourists today is to discover the second largest desert in the world that's being open for tourists for the first time in history now. Many parts of the Saudi desert remain until today virgin and unexplored. Adam Baron, a writer who visited Saudi Arabia and lived in the Middle East for a long time, wrote for the Foreign Policy months ago, "Unlike any other Middle Eastern deserts that I visited, sitting in the middle of the northern desert of Saudi Arabia, the scene was near revolutionary." This week, Saudi Arabia hosted the largest nomadic life festival. This used to be all-male camel festival, but this year and for the first time, the camel festival hosted teams from more than 80 countries where they competed in a wide range of games like hunting, horseback riding, wrestling, and other things. This event by far was the most remarkable event taking place in Saudi Arabia. It welcomed more than 7,000 visitors every day for a 10-day period. In this experience, people found something very connected to the culture of the country and its people, something they can't really find in other touristic destinations. Here is a hint from the event, and then I will talk to David Pollock from the Washington Institute. We'll hear his thoughts on Saudi Arabia being open for tourists for the first time in history.
This institute, my research institute, the Washington Institute, did a group study tour of Saudi Arabia with about, I wasn't on it, but I think there were about 60 or 70 people who went from all over the United States. And they did it in an organized way with tour guides and leaders, and people loved it. They loved it. They thought it was so interesting and so different, and they were very pleasantly surprised by the impression that they had of the people in Saudi Arabia and the country. And obviously, for other Arabs and other Muslims who already come to Saudi Arabia for religious reasons, but now maybe they would also come for vacations or for archaeological tours or nature tours or other kinds of tourism, but also for the broader Western and Asian and other tourist markets. And the reason I say that is that a lot of people, first of all, are very interested to see a country that is just starting to open up to foreign tourists. After that, I think there's potential for, as I said, archaeological tourism, which I personally am very excited about. Going to see ancient burial sites or stone carvings or ruins of fortresses and temples and so on. Saudi Arabia has plenty of that. They're far away in the desert, so that's an issue, but I think some of them anyway, but that could be a great tourist attraction someday. And then there's a lot of very interesting and unusual nature. Not just desert, but there are mountains, there are beaches, there are not forests, I guess, but interesting geological formations, and tourists are especially young tourists, are interested in what we call eco-tourism, which is looking at nature sites and becoming sort of connected to nature. And then there's also history. Of course, there's a very interesting history of the Saudi. I think people would be very, very interested in that. That's mostly for the, I think, American and European market. For the Asian market, I think possibly Asian tourists from China, from Japan, from India and other important, very big countries, they might possibly, I'm guessing here, they might be more interested in touring some of the modern features of Saudi Arabia, the shopping malls, the skyscrapers, the new sports stadiums and cinema facilities that are just starting in the last year or so in Saudi Arabia. I think that might be attractive for Asian tourists. When I was there the last time in July, I was taken by some Saudi colleagues to places outside of Riyadh that I'd been in Saudi Arabia before and I'd had a chance to visit some places, but not these places, and they were fascinating. Diriyah, which was the historical capital before Riyadh of the Saudi dynasty in the 19th century and early 20th century. And there are castles to look at and very interesting to me historical monuments and stories about sieges and battles and, you know, kings and princes and all of that. And then I was even taken to a town about an hour further outside of Diriyah, which is called El Oyen, which they told me was the birthplace of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab.
I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you always for sharing bright content. See you next week.